Let's make a workbench. All right, so when I first decided that I was going to start making things out of wood and trying to sell them to make myself some money, I was only working out of a small one-car garage in an apartment complex back in Longmont, Colorado. I wasn't supposed to be using the garage for anything other than parking my car, so the first thing that I did was build a workbench very quickly in a single day that I could shove in the back of the bay and at least sit my work pieces on, so that I could still technically pull my car in if the leasing office got any complaints and they said, hey, you're not supposed to be using this as a workspace, it's supposed to park your car. Luckily, I didn't get any complaints. I never really had to deal with anything like that. I made friends with the maintenance people, so I think even if I did, they would have given me a heads up and I could have moved some things around. But having to use that space taught me something incredibly valuable. It taught me that you need a good workbench. You see, that bench was almost immediately gobbled up by all of the things that I didn't have any other place for in that garage, and it made the workbench not usable as a workbench. It became a shelf that I left things on. By that time, I had bought a cheap little $300 table saw from a buddy of mine, and that table saw was taking up pretty much the rest of the space that I had in the garage. So the table saw became my workbench. I know. Every woodworker out there just clutched their pearls and gasped all at the same time. I heard it from where I'm sitting. I know that it's bad practice, but sometimes you do what you do, and that's what I did, so I guess sue me. I don't know. The point is, a workbench was so necessary for my work that I inherently just began using other things to fill the void left over by my workbench that wasn't a workbench anymore. This time I told myself it was going to be different. I was moving to a house with a little bit of land, and that house had a 2-car garage attached and a 1-car barn on the other side of the property. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to be living in luxury, and this time I'm going to do it right. I'm going to build these beautiful cabinets. The first thing I'm going to build is a perfect workbench, and I'm not going to fall back into that trap of using my table saw as a workbench. But guess what? I got procrastinating things, other stuff needed done around the house, and I immediately realized that I had done exactly what I set out not to do. I had turned my table saw once again into my workbench. So when I realized that this was happening, and that I was starting to do the same bad habit, I stopped, I looked around, I took stock of my surroundings, and I said, hey idiot, you have a workspace that's like 5 times the size of what you were used to. Build your damn workbench. So in the interest of my sanity, that's what I'm doing. Luckily, I have an awesome supply of rough cut oak that I got at my local lumber mill, and I just started milling it down so that I'd make some nice thick boy legs and a good frame that I could put a nice tabletop on. I'm trying to make sure that everything that I build, even if it's for just me and not for a client, lets me explore a way to make myself better. One of those things that I'm trying to be better at is not overcomplicating the things that I'm building or overcomplicating just things in general, because I have a really bad tendency to overcomplicate things. So in the interest of that, I made this workbench very simple. Super straightforward, just a nice, simple boxed-in workbench, no fancy joinery, no stylization, just square, solid oak frame with nice birch plywood panels and a nice thick top for me to set my work on. I'm lucky enough that I could pick up a Festool domino for my joinery, and that makes these side frames on my legs way easier to do. I can just set the gauge, cut for the dominoes, glue it up, clamp it, and set it off to the side. Like I said, I'm trying to make things nice, clean, simple, and easy. Once I got the frame all glued up, I needed a lot more oak milled up to make my bench top. One of the things that I'm also trying to improve upon is just taking the aesthetics of what I build to another level in simple, repeatable ways. Now, I'm trying to keep this build simple, but one of the ways that I think I can make it look a little bit better is by making sure that the grain on the bench top kind of lines up. And since it's for me, if I screw it up, it doesn't really matter that much because it's just practice for me to make sure I can do it better for my clients. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, this thought didn't really occur to me until after I went ahead and milled up all of the oak. Sometimes I have a really bad habit of getting ahead of myself, but I did get it milled up and I realized I could go through and organize this in a way that the grain kind of matches up and aligns. So I took the time to lay out what I wanted and make it at least somewhat visually appealing, and I think I did an okay job here. Towards the end, it gets a little wonky because I was running out of options, but overall, this was a good practice for me to be more considerate of my grain patterns. So far, woodworking full-time has been a journey of learning and figuring out ways that I can make myself better. I've tried to do that before in the past with pretty much everything I've done, and in the past, I did that by getting involved heavily in science. And one of the most scientific aspects for me of woodworking is the finishing product. So, yet again, test out on myself a new option, a new technique before I let it go to my clients or use it on client work that someone's paying me to do. This part is a perfect example of that again. So I picked up a new finishing product that is UV cured. Never used it before, and I wanted to see how easy or hard it was to work with, on top of actually just being curious about how easy the UV curing process was. This one's Clean Armor, but there's a couple of other companies that do it. Basically, you pour the finish on and then UV cure it. You don't have to turn the lights off. I did here because I think it looks cool, and who doesn't want it to look cool? One of the things I learned during this process is that small little UV light wand that I have is definitely annoying to try and cure this with. So I picked up a couple more of them, and I'm going to make a larger light bar that can cure the more surface area on the tabletop than what I did at this point. I think one of the best things about woodworking so far for me has been that I'm constantly learning new things. If anybody knows me in real life, they know that I absolutely love learning. I love failing. It's just a part of me. It's been a part of me for a really long time. And it's not just things that I'm learning about how to make pretty furniture or how to cut dovetails or make cool castle joints that give you cool table bases for people. Sometimes I learn things about the world. Sometimes I learn things about business. A lot of times I learn things about other people, but I think more often than not, I'm learning things about myself. I'm learning about who I am, spending a lot of time in my own thoughts. I wonder what things I'm going to learn with this new workbench.